We're not actually making a computer game. That's a big lie. We're actually making a hobby. These things cost so much money and so complicated that unless we can convince people to stop having a normal life and spend 3 hours a night playing it for a year, we haven't done our job. And that's completely different to virtually any other type of computer game that gets made and put out on the market. In those games you have a set budget, you make something, you put it in a box, you flog it. You flog enough of them, you make another one. With ours, you make it, technological people go, we can do that. They spend a year, and they go, we can still do it. Spend another year, they go, so actually it's very difficult. More difficult than we thought. And you go, right, oh, okay, right. Well, we're confident, we're confident. And you have to buy bandwidth, and you have to buy computers, and you have to have customer service, and all of a sudden what is a tiny project becomes a massive project. And what was going to be just, well, it's just like a PlayStation game but with a lot of people on it, becomes a technological and game design nightmare. And most computer games that are sold are around about an hour a pound, approximately. Buy some other stuff, we get ripped off, but that's about it. You buy 30 quid, it's got about 30 hours. These things, blank screen, imagine. These things, you're looking at round about 1,500 hours. So you're looking not for 10 times a game played, you're not looking, you're looking for an immense amount. And then you've got to profile it between the 3 different types of player. There's the person who will play every single day, and they must be happy and content. And they don't want 1,500 hours of gameplay, they want 7,500 hours of gameplay. Then you've got people who play sort of semi-casual, they play it, they don't play it, they play it, they don't play it. They need about 1,500, and then you've got other people who log on, give us a credit card, and then forget. And they're my favourite players. Because, you know, we worked really hard to get them in, got them to sign up, and they never come, they never give me any overhead, they never tell me to do anything with it. And MMOs, which is all I've ever done, is one of those much maligned things. People say, well, it's just a computer game, but it isn't, it's a different industry. It's actually quite old, it's been going about, and then they just arrive, you see, technology just, boom, see, it works. I'll put them down there. There's no sound on this because marketing wouldn't cut us any sound, and there's not a lot of ooh. Marketing wouldn't cut us any of that either. What I've got is sequences. Some of it's pre-rendered, some of it is tool sections, and it sort of goes on in the background and looks very pretty. This is the excuse you get for funding. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Where they go, look, see, we can do it. It looks great. And it all looks wonderful and imagery. So it's all about building a hobby. What we want is for people to buy a box, and inside we want a poster, and we want the game to be so good they have to put the poster on the wall. We want to give them a manual that they read religiously, that gets scuffed and worn out and sits next to their desk. We want to get them to the point where no one is allowed to load anything on the machine, and they have to install another telephone line. They've got a crippled mouse hand syndrome. All these things are good. All these things mean that people are paying attention. And MMOs that are out at the moment, are basically, they're second generation. And they're based off the mud technology that was done years ago, where you had ultimate gameplay. I can prove it was ultimate gameplay, because all you had was text. There was no graphics, there wasn't anything. And if it wasn't any good, I remember when, was it Revelation, someone put a piece of coloured text in. I went, God, you can't top that. 3D fonts, it's incredible, I tell you. And then when we moved to graphics, the Americans moved first because they had all the money. Could have been, wouldn't it? And when they moved to graphics, they basically went, look at it, look at the monkey, it's great. And they ignored an awful lot of gameplay elements. So they spent an awful lot of money, built these big graphical games, pumped them out, and then nobody played them. And then Sony came along and just went, we don't care, we'll just keep spending money. And they spent millions and millions and millions. And then all of a sudden, EverQuest grabbed hold, and all of a sudden it became, well, almost in profit, and then it did go into profit, and then all the big American companies woke up and went, we should have a bit of that. That sounds like a good idea. And all the mud lads were basically taken out of their mud gaming, and they were given directorships in these companies, and they went mad, and they created big computer games. And everyone is in second generation. Well, mud's got up to about 6th generation. What we're doing here is we're taking an IP, we're taking clever technological people, he's one of them, officially, and then we're saying, well, actually, there's an awful lot of good, solid gameplay that these games currently don't do because they're all eye candy. Why don't we just migrate that gameplay into the graphical games? And the original pitch was, it'll be British, quirky, and we'll really try hard. Which is sort of like the British way, we'll try hard on £5. I want to spend 4 million. And then lo and behold, it turned out that it looks beautiful and it uses new technology. It's that bit in the DVD director's commentaries when they say there was no technology, so we invented it. Well, that's pretty much what this is. You want to make a console game, there's about 6 different engines you buy, they've been around for years, people update them. There is no server balancing technology. So you say to Jim, well, just build one. It can't be that hard. And that's what he's been doing. So what I got here is we had to build new tools, they have to build new ways of working with servers, bandwidth, everything comes down to cost. In this day and age of people going around saying, everyone's got broadband, you realise that every time your data stream increases by 1k, you just added £1 million to your running budget. And that's the reason that big, dark managers keep turning up to Jim with big hammers and saying, have you got that bandwidth down here? And they keep saying, well, broadband's going to be everywhere, just get the bandwidth down, Jim. That's your only job. Make it stable, make the bandwidth. And then designers like me come along and say, oh, I'd like the moon, please, on a stick, around about there. And they go, yeah. Put the designers back in the box and put it back to the techie guys. So now it's up and running, and he can talk technical again.
Yeah, I think one of the big things about massive multiplayer games, which kind of contrasts to certainly games in the past, and to some extent, although to a lesser extent, the games that we're playing on consoles now, is that it's not about getting a whole world and squeezing it into a tiny little box, which is what computer games have traditionally been about. They've been about kind of tiny bits of memory, little, not very powerful computers, and squeezing kind of as much gameplay and as much reality and as much world as you could possibly do into this little box. What we're kind of doing with Warhammer Online is completely the opposite. And we've got big piles of servers, we've got massive databases, and the problem becomes actually putting enough good stuff into the game as quickly as we possibly can to keep all these hundreds and thousands of people occupied for not 40 hours, but kind of month. So, once we've launched the game, that's not the end. We need to keep adding content to keep people subscribing, because ultimately, once they've seen it all and done it all, they'll hang around and chat for a bit. But what they really want is they want to see new stuff. They want to see more stuff. They want it to be like the Warhammer world. They want it to seem like it's a whole new world with a world's worth of stuff to do. So technologically wise, it really is about how can we possibly fill this 400 square kilometres with fun stuff to do in kind of any sane amount of time that we possibly can, which actually kind of turns on its head a lot of the things that you traditionally do with computer games. So we've spent lots of time from a technology point of view working on tools which allow us to create this content, good content in a very, very quick way. We're not about copy and pasting the same content everywhere. It's not going to be once you've seen one town, you've seen them all. All the towns are going to be different, and that's going to make it feel like a world rather than just kind of an endless repetition of the same stuff. But in order to do that, we need tools that can help us make vast arrays of characters and vast arrays of buildings really, really quickly. If you see some of these characters up here, you see lots of different dwarfs. And one way of doing this would be to model lots and lots and lots of different dwarfs. But when you actually start working out the numbers, you'd need modelers working, every modeler in the world working forever to create you enough different dwarfs to make it appear like this 400 square kilometres of Warhammer world has, thousands of different dwarves in it. You don't want every dwarf to look the same. So what these characters are made of is actually kind of little bits of little bits of character Lego. So we've got loads of different dwarf boots, loads of different dwarf trousers, loads of different dwarf beards, loads of different dwarf hats, and we can plug them together in whatever way we want. And then on top of that, we can actually modify all the bits of those characters as well. So we can have two dwarfs made of the same parts, but we make one dwarf have a massive chubby belly, and we make the other dwarf slightly taller. We can kind of shift the hues on things, so we can have two orcs which look the same, but they're slightly different colours. And all that technology is driven by the need to be able to create lots and lots of very different, interesting content very, very quickly. If you see some of the buildings that go past, we've actually got some source footage in there as well. The buildings are based on a similar concept. We've got kind of Lego for buildings, where we've got artists who create tile sets of different types that can then be plugged together into lots of different buildings. So we have a religious tile set, which has loads of kind of archways and stained glass windows and stuff, and we can build that together into literally hundreds of churches very, very quickly. And so the whole push for Warhammer Online is to make it feel like a rich, huge world full of interesting stuff. So it doesn't seem like a flat plane that stretches to infinity in every direction. And yeah, there's lots of people, but there's nothing to do and nothing to see. It really is going to look like, you're going to have to spend a lot of time walking around the Warhammer world before you've seen everything, because every town's going to be different. Different tribes of orcs are going to look different. Different monsters are going to look different and act differently. So the real kind of technology push has been how do we create enough varied content to keep people busy and to without having to kind of get them to see the same characters, the same buildings over and over and over and over again in a vast area. So I mean that's been the real big difference between the stuff we're doing in the MRL and the stuff we're doing in Warhammer Online. In the MRL it's like, can we get loads of people in a world together? And now it's like, well, we can get lots of people in the world together. Can we create enough interesting stuff in that world to keep them all interested? So and for that reason, a lot of new technology has been developed for Warhammer Online. New rendering engines. One of the things that MUDs and early MMOs tended to do was work on this kind of single server basis. MUDs, because they're not graphical, they're not people wandering around colliding with each other. The processing is much simpler in a MUD. So they tend to be one server box which everyone talks to. With massively multiplayer games, you can't do that. You can't get one box doing everything that needs to be done in the graphical world for thousands of people at the same time. So the early massively multiplayer games tended to kind of get a MUD server, get it to do graphical stuff, get it to do kind of collisions and AI and stuff, and then when that one was finished, another one on next to it. So in games like EverQuest, you tend to find these kind of canyons where you can't see beyond the mountain ridge, and you have to go through this canyon through the mountain ridge and then zone into the next server. At which point there's kind of this big seam in the world effectively where you have the break between one server and another, which is artificial and it's not there for game design reasons. It's there purely because there's a limitation in technology. We wanted to get around that, so one of the things we've done for Warhammer Online is just to create a seamless world where our servers just communicate with each other to figure out what's going on in the boundaries between servers, and also communicate with each other to work out which bits of the world each server is going to deal with. And that creates a completely seamless world. So with Warhammer Online, you can walk in a straight line forever from one side of the world to the other, and you'll never notice that you've actually travelled through 3 or 4, 5, 6, however many servers on your route. And it also means that if everybody gets together in one town, then we can have a server dedicated to just dealing with that town and all the people in it. And all the other servers will take care of the kind of other parts of the world which will be not as populated. So you won't have this situation where, I think in games like EverQuest, you can actually get to the point where one zone is full. So not only do you have to traverse this canyon to get to the other side to get onto the next server, but you might be traversing this canyon and it will just say, no, sorry, there's too many people on the other side, so you have to turn around and go back the way you can. And these things are kind of, they're not showstoppers, but we're trying to push the technology forward. We're trying to take massive multiplayer games on from where they were, in terms of technology and games. And so, that's some of the things we've been working with.
That's not our technology.
No.
That's somebody else.
This is my
Quite seamless.
I'll let Paul talk.
Would you like to take some questions now?
Yeah, sure.
That would be, yeah. Could we bring the lights up and give an opportunity? Because the audience has had quite a lot of input. along the way. It'd be really nice to get some questions. We've got people here from other games companies. We've got players of games and all sorts of people. So it'd be really nice to have some questions. There's one there. Paul?
Hi chaps, you've obviously put a hell of a lot of time and money and effort into improving the game world. It looks fabulous. My question is, have you put a similar amount of time, effort, money or research into improving the quality of people that actually play massive multiplayer online role-playing games? That's a serious, because that's ultimately, seriously, have you done anything in that area?
We've done a couple of things which aren't about improving the types of players, but we have done things regarding how players get into the game. One of the things we got rid of is the ability to give yourself your own name. And that came from years and years of experience of people coming up with things that are libelous, or downright insulting, inflammatory, argumentative, or will just get you in an awful lot of trouble. So we got rid of that. Your name is given to you on a name generator within a cohesive role-playing logic of Warhammer Online. Now that means at a stroke we lost the need to have 4 customer service people who do nothing but fix people's names and have to have rules and instructions as to why you can't be called arse biscuit. You end up in outrageous bits. You end up getting sued by Americans for freedom of speech because they can't have spelled a swear word particularly aggressively. So we've done that. We said, right, that's just not allowed. The other thing we've done is we've put in an awful lot of balances and checks regarding quality of how people behave, and putting in customer service stuff so that there's a good understanding of what the laws and the rules are, and there's going to be pretty rigid control of people who misbehave. Because when you play these games, the difficulty isn't the game world, the difficulty is the style of game you promote in the game world. Now, if you play a game world where you can distill it into doing nothing more than crunching numbers and ignoring people, and power playing, cat-arsing we call it, then you promote people who don't talk to other people, don't care about other people playing in the game, have no real sense of community, and on a one-man mission to beat the game, and are just abusive, difficult and awkward. So the game play styles we've built are as best we can protected from allowing people to just muscle-bound and number crunch their way through the game. So we've done stuff like that, and we're also just going to be like Nazi-like on it. And crap, we'll just chuck them out. That's an unofficial statement, clearly.
With the kind of last bit, the other things where they've got, in a way, you should have a similar thing in which you have players interact with each other. They have a need to have professional players to orchestrate what's going on. And do you plan to have people who are there playing it kind of professionally employed by you guys to kind of start quests, talk to people, a way of, without being a Nazi, mediating the world?
Yes, we do.
Directing people.
Yeah,
how much of that's planned?
Customer service section currently has plans for 3 people per game server on launch who act as sort of like the gods of the server. They'll be responsible for provoking roleplay. They'll be responsible for looking at things like invasions, and they're also a court of last appeal in a character style into the game. So they actually walk around, you can see them, you can interact with them, and they're responsible for all intents and gods. And their instructions are to move the gameplay on and make sure that the game world feels like it's doing something. One of the hobby elements of it is if you go on holiday for a week and you don't play our game, when you come back, stuff should have happened. Thus provokes getting you to go, God, I can't stay away from it from a day. Sort of the computer equivalent of crack. That's where we're aiming. But yeah, so we'll have people in charge, they will be there, and their job will be to control, drive and help me there.
Question here.
Do you do much qualitative research of your users? So do you do any user testing on how the users get addicted, how they feel about it, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I've been doing this stuff for about 10 years. I've worked on most of the big MMOs that are out there at the moment, and you're always checking what people want to do. You've got to be very careful if you go out to your user base, because your user base just lie. They don't mean to, they do it by accident. So if you talk to them and you say, what sort of game would you like? They say, oh, we'd like a very realistic game that's quite hard and tough. or you've really got, but the cheaters can't do very well, and you've really got to work hard. What they actually mean is they want everyone else to have a really hard game, they can't cheat on, but actually they want to do quite well, really, without trying too hard. That would make them very, very happy. And when they want realism, they're all big on realism. When you start saying to them, so you want to have to eat regularly or you starve, they go, oh no, that sort of realism. You want us to drain money off you through taxes? No, that sort of realism. Oh, okay, then. You don't really want realism at all. So they profess realism, but actually they want bang, crash, flames. They want buxom women. No one wants to play ugly people. They're serious. They want everyone else to be ugly, but they don't want to be ugly. So yeah, you're always going out and checking, and the way you can monitor that, you monitor who's playing, what are they doing. One of his jobs is to ensure that the database logging is such that you can see what's the most popular thing people like to do. How often do they do it for? What do they gain when they do that? Why are they doing it? If everyone is suddenly buying the blue potion and taking it to one place in the land and dropping it, why? Why is that happening? Has it got anything to do with the fact that elves seem to be 10 times better than anyone else and they own all the blue potions? Is there a correlation somehow? So, they have to do that for us. And we also do testing and marketing people, constantly being marketed. We keep giving them pie charts. Don't know what they mean, but very exciting. Cost a lot of money.